Over the last couple of months, we've had several talks, mostly on Lord's Day mornings, about the 7 sayings of Christ on the cross. We've had 6 talks. I've done 3 of them, and then 3 of them have been done by Mike Eubank and a couple by Joseph Rebor. And on a recent Wednesday evening talk, Joseph did the 7th saying. The only one left untouched is the 6th one. I'd like to address that this morning before we partake of the Lord's Supper. John 19 and verse 30. When Jesus had received the sour wine, he said, "It is finished." And he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. What is usually regarded as the 7th, which would be words immediately following this, not recorded by John, would be, "Father, into your hands I commend my spirit." So it is finished. That comes from one Greek word, tetelestai, which is a form of the vocabulary word teleo, which means to aim toward an end. Telescope is to see toward an end, to see the farthest reaches. And teleo and tetelestai, by virtue of that, would mean to end, to compete or complete, to execute, to conclude, and even to discharge a debt. When a debt was owed in the first century, a certificate of debt was issued, much like you would have a loan contract. When that obligation was settled, it was officially resolved with a single Greek word that might be placed above the parchment face, and that word was this one, tetelestai. It's finished. It's done. The obligation is canceled. So the cancellation of a debt and the certificate of debt which stands against us constitutes the 6th saying of Jesus on the cross. You have from 2nd century Egypt, receipts found in the sands that are most often introduced by this phrase, tetelestai, with regard to the paying off of a debt. So the arduous work of Jesus Christ, his personal ministry on the earth, has now been brought to a culmination. It's been brought to an end. Prophecy is fulfilled. Everything Jesus came to do is done. His death ends in triumph and ultimately in the resurrection of which we've just sung. The obligation is settled. Our certificate of debt is canceled out. And so in the darkness that shrouds Calvary from the 6th hour to the 9th hour, a divine transaction is occurring. Punishment adequate for all the crimes of all of humanity is being paid. Every murder, every lie, every theft, every act of adultery or fornication, every lustful gaze, every hidden act of vice, every moment of pride, every monstrous deed of evil. Punishment for every crime of every man and every woman who's ever lived. Jesus takes upon himself, as if he is personally responsible and guilty of all of it, although he is guilty of none of it. In the end, punishment for evil including the cross, does not prevail. Jesus does not die of exposure or loss of blood or asphyxiation. When full payment is made, when the last of the debt of those who trust in him melts away, when the justice of God is fully satisfied, Jesus simply dismisses his spirit into the Father's hand and dies. But before he does, a single word falls from his lips: tetelestai. With that one word, we know that our debt is canceled and that Jesus paid it all. Everything that the Lord vowed to accomplish, everything that he intended to accomplish, is a done deal, once for all, finished. We sometimes speak of the finished work of Christ on the cross. All of our obedience does not add to the merit of our salvation. It simply meets God on his own terms. It simply meets the conditions to receive this free gift. But the gift is secured right here, right now. It's done. And we rejoice in that whenever we partake of the Lord's Supper.